and I think we should jump right to this chat. Well, we've got a coach, a player, an executive born in Greenburgh, Pennsylvania, a Miracle on Ice kid, which helped him start to learn to play in 1982. Played high school hockey at Cranbrook Kingswood with a very close friend of mine. Attended Hobart and William Smith College in Geneva, New York, where he received a degree in economics and history. Started his career in sports as an intern at the well-known IMG while in school. Spent 17 years in motorsports, mostly with NASCAR. A hockey coach who joined USA Hockey's board in 2011 in the Marketing Council. Spent time on the board of the National Aviary and Visit Pittsburgh. Started his career in the NHL in 2015 with his hometown Pittsburgh Penguins, where he became the chief revenue officer until 2022. Of course, he was part of the organization when it won 2 cups in 2016 and 17. Became the CRO with the Vancouver Canucks in 2022. Recently stepped away briefly from the Canucks to spend some more time with his family and stay engaged in his work with USA Hockey. A level 5 USA Hockey coach with 24 years of experience. Lastly, 2 lovely children in their teens who both play hockey. Welcome to Cross Ice Pass, Terry Kalna.
Good to be here, Steve. I appreciate it. It's quite the intro.
Yeah, I want to make sure I pulled it all out there, you know. So, but we've got to start with the one question I ask every guest, which is, what is your fondest hockey memory? And it can be 1 or 2, it can be recent, it can be old, whatever you think, whatever comes to your head.
I do remember. I remember a game in Bantam at a Christmas tournament, the Paul Coffey tournament, Mississauga, Ontario. Playing a team from Finland, we were down by a couple goals. I think the score was 4-2 late, and somehow I was a goaltender, and somehow the guys in front of me, I was a goaltender, so it shouldn't have been 4. But we're down 4-2, and the guys in front of me, they pulled out 3 goals in like the last 90 seconds. One was a breakaway that I somehow luckily saved. A home run pass from the rebound in front of me turned into a breakaway goal the other way. So it's probably, like, of all the stuff I've been in, it would be that. And of the games I haven't played in, though, man, like, been in the arena when the cup's been won several times. But it was the 2017 Chris Kunitz double overtime goal against Ottawa. And I've never heard an arena so loud in my entire life. It sent the Penguins on to the final in 2017, and just like the most insane moment ever. The whole family was there. Even my parents were there. Like, it was really cool. So, but like you though, so many insane memories in this incredible sport that we are so lucky we get to be a part of.
Yeah, no, I mean those are pretty awesome. I was so happy when I saw, kind of looking through your career, that you weren't working with the Penguins when the Penguins were playing the Red Wings, because I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to ask him about that.
Well, I made the big mistake. The good news is my wife and I got blue out of it, which they didn't have in Florida at that point in time. But I made the big mistake in 2007 of flying home for Game 6 in Pittsburgh. So I did see Chris Chelios, who's obviously an amazing American player. See Chelios and your boys raise the cup in the igloo, and it was like, and I just spent how much money on the flights the day before, because the series would have ended in Detroit, except I think it was Sergei Gonchar scored in OT to send it back to Pittsburgh, but to no avail. Your boys won. They were the better team.
It's all right. You guys have done a lot better since. So,
Yeah.
And this last off season, I was out in Meadville. Good friend of mine, Tom Westfall, he's from there, so I got to go to see a Penguins game live for my first time at that arena. I love to see all the arenas around the NHL if I can. And PPG's was really nice. It's a very nice arena.
Yeah,
so.
PPG's great. The team there, they care so much, and it's the little details. The arena was, PPG was open in 2010, so it's 14 years old. It looks as new as anything in the NHL. Like, they keep it clean. They are repainting every single day. It's like, it's really been it's a beautiful facility. They've taken great care of it, and it's a fun place to watch hockey. Obviously, you
Yeah.
get spoiled having to sit there every night, like those lucky fans do. It's always entertaining there. The in-game stuff's fun. But Meadville, though, like, you're talking about, this iconic high school hockey programs produced a lot of great players over the years in this, little town an hour north of Pittsburgh. And
Mm-hmm.
there's Meadville hockey there, and Channel Lock tools, and not a whole lot more. It's just, it's real small town America, fun spot.
Well, we'll have to get you to this tournament that we play in. And since you're a goalie, of course you're always on high demand.
Yeah, no longer carrying goalie equipment around. I play D now.
Okay. Okay. Noted.
Too many
Um,
breakaways in beer league.
yeah. Yeah. And your knees, over time, I have some friends that stopped playing because they were goaltenders and their knees just didn't last. Their mind did, but their knees didn't.
Yeah.
So, speaking of that, I'd love to kind of start with your youth hockey life. You told me a bit about the Penguins and also your fascination with Jim Craig and Miracle on Ice. Talk us through your youth hockey life in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, my first game was in 1980. Mark Johnson, who was, obviously American hero coming out of Lake Placid, was a Pittsburgh Penguin. I was 5 years old. The ticket from that game is still in my mom's scrapbook that she keeps. It talks about how strangely, I loved hockey more than football. In Pittsburgh at that time, it was clearly all Steelers. But like everyone else who has, you just fall in love with it immediately. Come home, put pillows on my knees to be goalie pads, jumping over the couch like you're doing a line change. And so I started playing in '82. Mark Johnson, Jimmy Craig, Mike Eruzione, those guys. I still vividly remember watching the '84 Olympics. I was an absolute U.S. Olympic hockey junkie, but that's what got me in. And obviously Mario Lemieux, amazing human, amazing player, amazing boss in my Penguins years. He did a lot to grow hockey in that market starting in '84. I got in it before the Mario era, which I think was cool then to be like, okay, I was doing this before the rest of you guys. So started playing hockey in Greensburg. Got to the point of playing for the amateur Penguins, which is the predecessor program to the Dick's Sporting Goods Pittsburgh Penguins Elite AAA program, which is probably one of the top 5 AAA programs in the U.S. now. Our predecessor was not, but it was good and great. And no, like the friendships and the relationships. When we won the cup in '16, I brought a bunch of those guys to my childhood rink to take a surprise photo with the cup. My old Penguins teammates, and it doesn't matter that we weren't the top 5 program then. You learned. We had great coaches. The thing I love most about youth hockey, I know people will say it sometimes, oh, it's too expensive, all the travel. Well, I mean, the travel was, I got to come to Vancouver as a Pee Wee hockey player, got to go to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, which is the most insane experience in the world. All the things, the Christmas tournaments, the Thanksgiving tournaments, the 6 a.m. practices, actually it was 5:30 back then. I mean, just all those things that come with the sport, as you know, are so amazing. And if you don't do all those things, what does your life become like after? Like, they really just, they open the doors. But yeah, I spent a lot of time playing goaltender, got to prep school, Tabor, then Cranbrook. Played with awesome people in both of those, still friends with a lot of those, both the guys I played with, but also girls from the girls teams. Girls hockey, which is really growing now, and it's amazing. I think it's the future of the sport, girls and women's hockey. But back then, like, you left your, what you call minor hockey, youth hockey program, wherever you were. I get to Tabor, and it's like, whoa, like, we have a girls program here, and they are legit. Like, you didn't have that where I came from,
Yeah.
and it was so awesome. And I admire, and I'm still friends with some of those girls, and I love watching girls hockey. Love what's going on with the PWHL. Girls hockey it's a really cool and special thing.
Yeah. I've been kind of blessed by having this. I've been having the right guests to kind of talk through Alana Blahoski, who was on the U.S. team, was on one
Mm-hmm.
of my episodes, and she coaches here in New York, and she talked about when it was almost like a hockey desert for girls when they were kids. She grew up in Minnesota, one of the major hockey states, and she used to have to travel to the east to play. Their college women's hockey was just the Northeast team. So like, I have a friend that is from Houston, Texas, that played hockey with boys and then played at Brown. But like over that time, it starts to evolve and evolve and evolve, and now we get this. It really, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's something I've always mentioned. Girls are saving our sport for sure.
Yeah, they really are. There's a lot of growth there. I mean, I don't even. A lot of times, when I first got to the Canucks, we looked at the business, and I was like, "Hey, we're just scratching the surface here." I think girls and women's hockey isn't even at the scratching the surface level yet. There's so much upside.
Oh yeah,
Just getting girls to try the game, to understand what the game can do for them, to just really see and experience how fun it is. And when you watch a USA Canada game, you watch a PWHL game, AAA hockey, girls hockey in the U.S. is like it's fire wagon hockey. It's north south, up and down the ice. It's If I didn't have a son, I'd probably say it's more fun than boys hockey. So I'll just say that they're equal. No,
yeah,
but yeah, it's girls hockey really is the future. It's awesome. I love it.
yeah. As a kid who was able to see the Penguins, like you told me, your dad kind of got you in these empty suites when the Penguins
Mm-hmm.
were super popular. But before Super Mario came, and you were this kind of like bright eyed kid watching the Penguins, who was your favorite player of the Penguins before Mario?
Probably Michelle Dion. I had number 29 Michelle Dion poster. His mask was so cool. I had that hanging on my wall. Terry Roskowski, because we had the same name. Mike Bullard was pretty tough. Randy Carlisle was an awesome player. So there were a lot of really talented guys in there. Pre Mario, or fun to watch guys. Paul Baxter, big D man, but Michelle Dion. I just gravitated goaltenders early from him. And then to like Patrick Waugh and Kirk McLean, guys like that, Felix Potvin, and still today, even though like being here in Vancouver, you've got talent like Quinn Hughes on the ice, and Quinn is incredible to watch. It's still so fun to see the way that Demko or Skinner or Bobrovsky, see the way those guys move. Just like the poetry in the net is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm glad you stick with your position. I mean, I think we all kind of do that. And then on top of it, you got to, work with and, have Flower there. He's such an amazing guy just to see, not only as an athlete, and he's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame right away when he retires. But, I even mentioned about it in an episode this week. He had that he cleaned up the ice, and he put on a wig and a mustache. So, the best thing about goaltenders too is that you guys tend to everyone thinks goaltenders are crazy, and that's a little true, but
Yeah.
usually you guys are the funniest guys. So
He's a great human. So I don't know Flower, right? I interact with him a few times a year at work. But one of his kids and Colby Armstrong's kids were doing they were doing like a skating lesson or a learn to skate at the Penguins practice facility one day when we were wrapping up. And Colby, I got a great relationship with it. We brought him into Pittsburgh to do media, and Colby was like, "Hey, what's going on at work tomorrow?" I said, "Oh, I got to make a wish kid come in the morning skate. Should be, a really neat day." And Flower heard it. He looked up and he's like, "Hey, I'm not playing tomorrow night. Bring him to my stall after practice." And I'm telling you, I don't know, if 15, 20 minutes at the stall, he's got the kid upside down, shaking him, like everything's falling out of his pockets. The kid's cracking up. The parents are cracking up. It was the most amazing experience. And the woman who set it all up, I don't know, 12, 16 weeks later, sent me a text one day and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that so-and-so had passed." And you're like, you know what Flower did for that kid, just overhearing me tell Army, "Oh, I got a kid coming tomorrow." He didn't have to do that, right? Like, you can go and hide, you can, and he's known for his hijinks and pranks and that, but that was all hard. Flower, he's such a great dude, but there are so many of them
yeah,
across the league and where you play and I play, and great sport, great humans.
yeah. Um, that's interesting thing because it kind of, we're kind of wrapping up your kind of youth thinking about the fact that you got to see Super Mario as soon as he started all the way through his career. And then I wrote down, I said, I'm like, I think Terry was the perfect age to see the growth of a team and just celebrate their back to back cups as a teenager. And you were like, you know, I got to see two cups in '96 and '97 you know as an 18 and 19-year old here or in Detroit. So I really understood that. But man, watching Mario and Sydney, there was a little bit of a lull there, but not much. So
But it was really Yager in the middle. I mean that city, and Pittsburgh it's the most amazing city. It's the greatest sports town. What the embarrassment of riches that place has gotten out of those three guys and Malcolm Letang Fleury, but to go from Lemieux to Yager to Crosby, and it's amazing. It's beyond words. The talent of those guys, but also they're just great people. All those guys. So yeah, Penguins fans, the city of Pittsburgh, they're so fortunate. And your teams in Detroit, obviously, you had some great runs and amazing humans like Yzerman, guys like Pavel Datsyuk, like, for Pittsburgh to have that kind of thing too is really cool. But like from where I sit and probably where you sit now, the coolest part about it is it grew hockey there. And if those guys all went to Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal, would it have had the same impact? I don't know. But when I was a little kid, there were 6 rinks in Pittsburgh. Last I talked to a friend of mine back there are 42 sheets of ice.
yeah,
That's and when you want to look at the USA Hockey logo and what we try and do there, that's what it's all about. Like is how does our work help more kids to play and to create rinks and opportunities, because it is the best sport.
yeah, and it's gotta. The only way it stays strong is it comes from the ground up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, that's why when I hear these like little mumblings about Atlanta, I'm like it's 2 times. Are we gonna get so 3 times and they're out? I don't know if Atlanta, and I also know that Atlanta doesn't have much of a youth following. There's not a lot of people that play in Atlanta, so for to have a team there and not have kids wearing jerseys, and they had their moment with Ilya Kovalchuk. They had some of the best players on Atlanta's teams, and you know didn't really fly, I would say. But
I think it can work this time. Maybe we'll do a
interesting.
podcast on that in about 5 years. I think
Right,
it can
right.
work this time.
Okay.
Actually, I
Okay.
don't think. I know it can. There's a lot of stuff that's going in the right direction. We'll chat back on that in 5 years. See if I'm
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Winner
No, I'm
winner
glad.
buys a whiskey.
Okay. Deal.
Yeah.
Deal. Deal. Because yeah, I definitely I'm usually kind of easy to push over a little bit, but for two teams to fail in Atlanta and then hear about it lately, I mean, I also hear a lot about Houston. I think Houston would be a great town for hockey. And I got to live in Texas for a little bit, so I got to see a little bit of the Texas hockey love. But speaking of the South, um, kind of going chronologically through your career here a bit. You had, right out of college, you got to work for a pretty great company in ISL. ISL and IMG are both huge sports names, in business. And what was it like, kind of, those early experiences with great brands and firms?
Yeah.
What were the insights that you could, thinking about college and now that they have, you know, people are going to school for sports
Mm-hmm.
marketing,
Absolutely.
for sports business and things like that. What were the insights you give to a young person who is now going to school for something that when we were younger wasn't really a specific thing?
Yeah, and so because it didn't exist back then those first jobs were really your sports marketing classes. And we used to say at NASCAR, like NASCAR is the Harvard MBA of sports marketing. But I was so fortunate. My first gig prior to ISL, was working for one of Roger Penske's companies in motorsports. Roger, I don't know who the greatest leader on the planet is. Is it Sidney Crosby? Is it Roger Penske? I don't think you can name one. But working for Roger and Greg, you learned about the business, about life, about leadership. The Roger Penske stories, Detroit guy, obviously. The Roger Penske stories are legendary. ISL, I had a fantastic boss there, a guy named John Rawati that owns his own agency now, but got to work on motorsports. But ISL back then was, a lot of younger people wouldn't know, ISL was the commercial rights owner for FIFA.
Oh,
So real
wow.
partnerships and tickets and television. Like it was, so ISL was, yeah, it was the European IMG. Learned a ton there, and then the NASCAR thing was, again, it was one of my old buddies, I think, that coined that term. Like it was the Harvard MBA of sports, and so many of the people I worked with back then have gone on to be presidents, C-level execs, VPs, at leagues, at not-for-profits, at teams, or still at NASCAR. We learn so much from each other. Now you can go to school, you can get a lot of the knowledge, and I love talking to students and explain to them like, hey, you've got all these tools that we didn't have. But sports marketing is bigger. There weren't as many me in the world for you to find and talk to back then. Now you can, through LinkedIn, through nights that sports teams host, you can go and you can talk to execs and you can learn and you can ask the dumb questions that no one's going to think it's a dumb question. Like they're we all know that someone gave us a chance to give us a start, so we're willing to field your crazy questions. I just had so there was a guy from the Abbotsford Canucks AHL team just got a cool new job with the Edmonton Oilers, and he sent me a LinkedIn note the other day. Hey, I appreciated talking to you when I was still in university at that game, and that kind of led me toward my Abbotsford internship, which became a job. So it's like, look up the people who do it, and there are so many of them that'll give you way more of their time than they have to help you through it. There are internships aplenty. There are classes. There are some grad programs now that are like instant hire. If you can get into the OU sports marketing grad program, they have hired between 8 and 10 people out of that, batting 1,000. So
Wow.
there are just so many new ways to get in. What do I wish I had done a little bit differently? I probably would have been an English major, because all you really do is like listen, speak, write. It's a couple core things. You can figure out marketing and social media. You can figure out sales, but sales takes those components.
Yeah.
Listen to what they may need, figure out some solutions, be creative, and then speak or write and come back to them with what they're looking for. But the opportunities now, just it you really can do anything in sports that you can imagine, and technology and these programs have really opened the door for that to be available to students.
Yeah. Plus, the thing that I learn in my business is that relationships are everything. And those kind of things that I even had, as a designer we had a couple people that came to visit that were from New York, that worked in New York. And I immediately contacted them when I moved here. And that's kind of how I was able to kind of light the spark on my career, which is great. And I mean, because of the technology being there, because of things like LinkedIn, and it's good to know. And I hope if there's anyone listening that is going through that in school, definitely check out Terry's LinkedIn. It sounds like him and other executives are willing to give you their time.
Yeah.
With your time, in motorsports, of course, it's a hockey podcast. We're going to mostly talk hockey, but I am curious about like what were some of your great wins that happened when you were working in motorsports?
I think it was really learning to be a teammate in the next level. You learn it as a hockey player in the dressing room. And in NASCAR, it's hyper competitive. It is the commercialization in NASCAR is done to a different level. F1, same thing. And you have massive goals and you have a big team. And so you got to figure out now, it's a little different than being in the dressing room. How do we get to this goal? And I pull my weight, but I hopefully look good enough to get promoted or get responsibility, but I don't want to make anyone else look. So I think you learn first how to coexist in this work environment of like healthy competition where you're still working for each other. You learn that stuff. You learn how to sell. You learn how to market. You then find who the leaders are. You try and attach your wagon onto a train going in the right direction, and learn, how do I lead? How do I make my teammates better? How can I teach and train the right way? And it's funny, I even struggled on some of the teaching and training, and during this leadership class they call Adept that NASCAR does. I had this epiphany one day of like, so I'm not good at giving feedback at work, but on the bench in a hockey game, Steve's coming off the ice. I immediately, hey, great play along the wall. You had your head up. You missed this guy. If you'd seen hit, like, there's an outlet there. So next time, you just, you're giving feedback there, and then you learn. Okay, here's how I do it at work, and that's a critical thing, because you're not going to help your teammates to grow and develop, unless they can give feedback and take feedback. And there were big deals that we did. They were all really cool. Celebrating those were fun, but the wins were really on the people side. The, and and it's not just within your team, but it's the friendships you make on the other side. Now retired CMO at Toyota, a guy named Ed Laukus, massive Chicago Blackhawks fan. So Ed and I are working on some things as Toyota's getting into NASCAR. We find the hockey connection, and it's, he's still a great friend post his retirement. He's down near Atlanta, which I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. But yeah, it's the people relationships, the big wins. I think if there was a commercial monumental thing that happened when I was there, is I was there for the reimagination of Daytona International Speedway. They put $400 million into reimagining the stadium around the racetrack. It was 4 years of design work, and how do we create a PR plan around it? What's the marketing concept? How do we get some partners to buy in? Because this is all privately funded. We've got to find a way to raise part of the money. So that was the momentous thing, and so many people that I worked with on that. I think a lot of us will look back and be like, that was my thing in my NASCAR day, to be a part of it. And then I bailed and went to the Penguins, and I didn't see it open.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually. When did working for your home team in Pittsburgh come into focus?
I was in Charlotte on a NASCAR business trip. A guy named Len Perna, who founded Turnkey ZRG, called me about 5 or 5:30 on a Friday, and he asked if I was sitting down. And my immediate response was, "So the Penguins job's open." And he was like, "Well, how'd you know?" Like, that's the only thing you would ask me if I was sitting down. He knew I was a hockey guy. Their firm had, what's the right way to say this? I correctly identified some great talent on my team over the years and helped them to grow and build their careers. Poached all my guys, so we built a relationship from that. And he called about that opportunity. Went in and met with David Morehouse and Travis Williams, who were leading the team at that point. And I don't know, I just came in with a ton of enthusiasm, my NASCAR experience. But I'm like, guys, like, I'm seriously just like an internal promotion. Like, I remember when Mario got drafted in '84. I remember that Yager told all the teams he wasn't coming to the NHL in 1990, and then he got drafted, and then you won the cup, and then tragically Badger Bob, amazing leader, died. Like, I know the whole Penguins history. I'm the easy fit here, and they were crazy enough to take a chance on me, and the stuff that I was able to be a part of there, and like growing the sport in my hometown, and the memories we created for people, for partners that we were helping to grow their business, just unbelievable. Unreal.
Yeah, I can only imagine. We've all got those things that we would definitely say yes to when it comes to our careers. I've always, of course, I'd love to work for the NHL, but I'd love to work for anything in hockey where I can live comfortably, make what I make now, but coaching and podcasting will be my thing I do on the side until then. But as the senior vice president of sales and broadcasting for the Penguins, what did that role entail?
So I think in any of those roles, there's a twofold piece to it. One is there's an executive component where you're working with the other members of the exec team on bigger picture things, the team strategic plan, What are your goals? And that's where you're really getting into. Like in the Penguins case, it was always, hey, the cap's going up. We're going to be a cap team. We need to make sure we have revenue streams that are growing appropriately so we don't disappoint this entire fan base. Basically the weight of the world's on your shoulders. And then within your team itself, so that's the executive piece. Then within your team, it's the same thing that you do as a coach in hockey or a GM in hockey at any level, including youth hockey, but in a different scale, right? You're trying to find the right people and build the right kind of team. You're creating clear purpose. You're creating clear goals for the team. This is what we have to do. This is our piece of the puzzle. And then you're going and executing. For me, there it was broadcasting, tickets, premium, partnerships, but then it all comes back to this one thing. And Brett Bauer, a guy I worked with both there in Vancouver, we were talking not long ago, and we were talking about clear direction. And he's like, like that was the thing with the Penguins is every single staff member, everyone in that arena knew that the mission was one thing: win the Stanley Cup. And then you knew from there what your role was in that. And my role was clearly not to try and stop pucks. Flower and Matt Murray were way better at that. But my role was make sure the fans have a great experience when they come to the arena, make sure that the ticket process is simple and easy for them, work with the food and beverage vendors to make sure that the food is great, work with the partners to make sure we're delivering for them, because we've got to have happy fans, growing fan base, and drive the revenue, or there is no team. And that cap growth era, and then COVID hit during the Penguins tenure, and absolute horror show. And one of the coolest things in sports is that on the business side, you're all friends. You're not battling on the ice. And so, COVID hits, and it's like my peers in Minnesota, Columbus, St. Louis, Nashville, and Tampa, they'll all say, I was on the phone with 3 of them earlier today, they'll all say, like, we got each other through COVID. With this role that we have at our local team goes out the window, and we're like, we want to help every team to survive this, and because the league's got to stay strong. But that revenue position is very much, pay the bills, make sure we can win. And then the Pittsburgh broadcast is in there, and their radio program, it was Josh Getzoff from Phil Bork in my tenure, Josh replacing the greatest of all time, Hall of Famer Mike Lang. And so it was about content creation and quality of the broadcast. Yeah, we had to drive revenue that again went back to what we're trying to accomplish as an overall team. But it's like, how do we make the broadcast better and better? How do we make the pre and post game show better? Brought Paul Steigerwald back from television, who's a lifelong incredible broadcaster. So you put on a heck of a radio show because you want to draw listeners, and just like you want to draw on the podcast, and that helps pay for the bills too. And you create more content around it. It's a 24/7, pay the bills, make the brand look good, develop the fan base. It's a lot of fun.
Never, always answer the phone, basically.
Always answer the phone, or make sure there was someone there to answer the phone. Every once in a while, you get stuck in a long meeting.
Right. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. I use Game Time because I can get amazing seats right before the game starts, and I get instant views from the seat to pick the exact experience. They also have all-in pricing, so I know what I'm spending up front. I don't have to click deeper and deeper and deeper to know what I'm paying. There's no surprise fees, and you know what you're getting from the start right to the checkout. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN. That's code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. That's huge, guys. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
My next question kind of aligns a bit with where you're at, what you're talking to there when it comes to like content. And this was your first time in an NHL office and organization, and coming from motorsports. But I'm also kind of curious about how much now we have social media everywhere. There's ads everywhere. There's analytics everywhere. And I know when you first started, some of that stuff wasn't there. It was more about like TV ads and newspaper ads and things like that. How did some of that experience in motorsports when you went to the hockey front office? What were some similarities there, and also what has grown over those years since you started?
Yeah, motorsports was ahead of the curve on some of the data things. We were fortunate. I say the names to make sure I'm giving proper credit so people don't think I've thought of all these things myself. A guy named Roger Vandersnick, he's with the Indianapolis Colts now. Incredible human and leader, but he was a Procter and Gamble brand guy. And he came in, and we were on the racetrack side, and he just starts talking about consumer data. And I don't make a single buying decision at P&G without data. And who's buying my products, why are they buying, where are they buying? And so he motivates us to create this innovation and insights team. And we go and get a really brilliant agency guy, and we start the data piece. So as I go over into hockey, the first couple of years in Pittsburgh, we didn't really have that BI resource. We had a woman on the team who was also doing a real full-time job, who did some of the surveying and pulled some of the data stuff. But I think, it continued to evolve. And now, like where we were with the Canucks, they have an incredible BI team who's constantly monitoring things like price points on sales, and what's the market doing? How do we move price to capture right? How to make sure we're not underpriced, overpriced? The data thing has come so far. NASCAR, I think, also had put a ton of resources into social, but when I got to Pittsburgh, Penguin social and content creation was incredible. A woman named Andy Perlman, who was running it, the In the Room show that the Penguins did, their content creation was great. But one of the other things from NASCAR into probably hockey was, in NASCAR, the whole country, everything mattered. It was never about one specific market. And early on, working with my teammates in Pittsburgh, we kind of identified so many of the things that we were focused on were Pittsburgh based, when really some of our biggest partners, PPG, FedEx, you get these global brands. And then we even got to brands that are not as big as those, but are global brands like an MSA Safety, who makes hard hats and safety equipment, CO2 monitoring devices, all these companies where the whole world matters, not just Pittsburgh. So we start to change what we offer from a partnership perspective. And it's not all about, you must have a suite here, you must have this in Pittsburgh. It's, where are your customers? How are you trying to connect with people in a different way? So let's evolve what we do and go see them, which is really just taking a page out of, complete theft from the NASCAR playbook of every place mattered, everything mattered. It was about the company, and it wasn't about where that racetrack was or where that race team was based.
That's really awesome that you got to see that evolution and also kind of walk into a really new thing and kind of create a little bit more of a new environment for for not only the Pittsburgh fans, but just the organization in general, which is great.
Yeah, so as a work nerd, you're having fun with it, and as a hockey guy, you're like, the nerdy stuff that was just fun just got us into yet another playoff round, and all these fans around me are losing their mind. They're so excited. It's just the way it all comes together is beautiful.
And the thing that you talked about a little bit already is, you walked into an organization that had, was it an easier experience to have when you walked into an organization that had, probably, it still is, one of the best hockey advocates out there in Sidney Crosby, and of course the winning product on the ice.
The Sid factor never hurts, right? He's beyond human. He is as perfect as everyone thinks, and all the opposing fans hate him today. But my gosh, when the retirement tour comes, it's it's going to be standing ovations everywhere because of what he did for the sport. But yeah, like when he is the face of the team and he's the ambassador, and it'll go back to like in my NASCAR days. One of my buddies, Frank Kelleher, he discovered the Simon Sinek Start With Why TED Talk that I've watched hundreds and hundreds of times. And so when you're in Pittsburgh and you're selling the why, you're talking about we're here to win the cup, to engage the fan base, improve the community. And when you're trying to sell the why versus other things, when you got that guy as in the part of the picture, it's like he embodies all of it, right? He's the hardest worker. He's the nicest human. He's the best teammate. He's community minded. It's just, it's perfect. The guy's perfect, and he really helps the business.
And for him, of course, you could say Gretzky was very good with that too, and Gretzky was in a lot of advertising and things like that, and really helped not only the sport but also Los Angeles and Edmonton. But the thing I love about Sid that he's done so well, and of course, as him being my opponent, it took me a little bit to get to warm up to him, and once he started realizing he didn't have to fight, then you really kind of start to see how great of a leader he has been, one of the best to maybe ever play the game as a leader. And it's definitely when in doubt. Did you guys ever have a line somewhere in the office that said, "When in doubt, just call Sid"?
No, we didn't. We should have. That's a pretty good idea. Walk down the hall but trust me, in your own mind, you're thinking like, yeah, what would he do? And what they had there, but it's the combo of him and Mike Sullivan. Sully's like having a 5-star general. He is an amazing leader. He is a student of leadership. He's always reading. He's always finding ways to get new perspectives. So that combo there, and that's what Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin did here with the Canucks, right? Like it was the talk it changed. Talk is an insanely amazing leader. He's a smart guy. He's built out this coaching staff that is, when you look at all the different things they bring, it's perfect. Quinn Hughes as a young captain, I'm sure Quinn would say he's learning to be a captain. I also heard Quinn say once if he could play hockey with anyone in the world, it would be Sid. So Quinn's been watching how he trains, how he treats his teammates, how he works with the officials on the ice. So I'm sure Quinn, as he's really grown so fast, so quickly as a leader, is probably watching some of that blueprint. And so, yeah, Jim didn't get in the Hall of Fame for nothing. Recreate what worked in Pittsburgh and get those leaders, and yeah, do what Sid would do. But Sid was also surrounded with guys like Chris Letang. He actually may be the hardest working guy there. He might work harder than Sid. I don't know. Tanger works hard. A lot of the guys, there were always complementary leaders. Patrick Hornquist. There were always guys around Sid that I feel like if Sid needed a 30-second breather, they were there to step up. Or they jumped on it before him sometimes because they were there, and that's why you win 2 times and had a legitimate shot at the third. Just Washington won, but it wasn't because that was suddenly a team without leadership. Lot to learn about business and life from those guys.
Yeah. And then it kind of leads me to my another one of my questions I have, which is, I think he's the greatest player who ever played. Everyone thinks Gretzky is, but I think Mario is. What was it like working for Mario Lemieux as your boss?
Man, I don't even know. Humbling. He's just, yeah. And then, you grew up watching him from when he's 18. We had the pleasure of having one of his daughters work for the team for a couple of years when I was there as well. Like just the nicest, most generous people. He's soft spoken. Does he know how good he is? I don't know. But he doesn't care how good he is or was. Like he just, huge heart, his fantasy camp that has, a number of NHLers, Chelly, Ty Domi, Trottier, like the things that he does for these fantasy campers, and the money goes to kids through his foundation. Yeah, working for Mario, you met him as a kid, right? You're a kid, he's an NHLer, and then when you meet him in your professional life, you're just, okay, how do I say the least amount right now so I just don't sound stupid? Because this guy's, there are three of them that are at the top of the list for me, and but great human, great leader, great man. I was excited to go to Vancouver for a lot of reasons, but sad to be, walking away from something that Mario built. The guy saved my sport. He built my sport in the hometown, and he saved it a couple of times.
Right. Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome, and it's so amazing that you got to be part of that, and still see, I'm sure you still see the, all the things that you worked on there still kind of bringing things on for the Penguins and their organization and the area. So, congratulations on the things you've done for that community, and I know it's close to your heart because that's where you grew up. So, that's pretty something not many people can have the ability or be blessed to talk about, which is great.
Yeah, no, you nailed it.
One thing kind of I'm curious to have is, a simple explanation, because here's one thing that I myself and most people don't understand when it comes to what revenue is truly the most important. Everyone's like, oh, the tickets went up because they must be broke, or, they got to pay these players this. Give us a little bit of a NHL front office explanation for dummies a bit.
Yeah. So as much as hockey is the greatest and most beautiful sport on the planet, the U.S. national television contract is not the same dollar amount as some other pro sports. It's all wrong. They'll get it right someday, I assume. So it changes the dynamic, and it is not, television is not the core area of revenue of earnings for most of your NHL teams. So tickets, it's really tickets, it's premium / hospitality, and it's corporate partnerships that really drive the business. Food and beverage revenue is good. If you own your own food and beverage, it's a little bit better than if you're using a third party. Merchandise, there are teams that do pretty well in merch, but I think for a lot of teams, look behind you, right? Merch is branding. You buy those things, and it signifies that you love the Red Wings, and it tries to. You got all three American guys up there too. Just caught that, and you hope that gets other people excited about the Red Wings or whoever it may be. But it's tickets, it's partnerships, number two, and it's the premium hospitality, number three. So that's where you see the investment in things like business intelligence, so that you can maximize your ticket revenue, so that you are then able to get to the cap. I don't know what the number is this year. I'm going to guess 24, 25 teams are at the cap. I don't know. So you make those investments. You invest in the fan experience. You invest in partner resources, because that's your controllable revenue. The TV contract is fixed. There's not much that you can do on a year-to-year. There's not anything you can do on a year-to-year basis to drive that revenue up. But if you get it right in the other areas, then that makes the difference. And when you're trying to win and spend at the cap, and now you see the practice rinks are like Taj Mahal, and the extra coaches and the second video coach, and it's nutritionists and the mental health coaches. All these things that it takes to win cost money. So you're like, okay, we've got to make the tickets and the partnerships and the premium. We've got to make it work. We've got to maximize. Yeah. As a guy whose family grew up buying tickets, as a guy who I bought tickets to a BCHL game, went to see the Nanaimo Clippers last weekend, and I paid for tickets, right? As a guy who pays for tickets, you don't want to have to raise the prices, but the reality is that that's where the cap's going. That's where the expenses of running the teams and competing are going. So you got to find a way to optimize revenue there. But again, all the teams I think come through with everyone is digging really hard and watching each other. how do I create more value? How do we make the in-game experience more valuable? How do we make ingress and egress easier? How do we improve our food and beverage options? Every single team across the league is looking at all that so that they can justify all those prices.
Wow. No, that puts it right. A nice nail right on the fact that I'm like, oh well, I don't think that guy deserves that much. Why are my tickets so expensive? But but I understand, and especially for the fact that hockey usually, a stadium usually doesn't surpass 20,000 people. So, you gotta. It's not like football where there's 100,000 80 to 100,000 tickets. So that revenue's gotta, I would imagine, gotta have some flexibility and make sure you're paying for the plane.
Yeah.
So
Well, but it's the other things too. It's the investment in the community. There are teams out there that I think that the Canucks for Kids Fund last year made an announcement when we surpassed like $10 million in 50-50 revenue. So you got teams that are putting one, two, three, five, $10 million back into the community for a number of things. You got teams making massive investments in hockey. That we talked about girls hockey earlier. Sean Henry and the Predators made a big announcement a couple years ago about a substantial investment in girls hockey. So it is. There's the part that's paying for the players, but it's the community investment. It's growing youth hockey. There are a lot of other things in there where guys like you and I can smile and be like, the money is really going to great people, great causes. Hockey teams, they all the peers across the league. There's a lot of heart there.
yeah, no, and I mean, like with the PWHL and how through the season they had some games in other cities, and some of the kids that are fans of the PWHL at my rink, they're like, "Oh, why are you playing in Detroit?" And I'm like, "Because I guarantee you, it's more than just showing the PWHL to those cities. It's also those cities could be just as easily an expansion, part of the expansion. Detroit, Pittsburgh, um,
Absolutely.
Vancouver. So it's right there, and
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
And that game in Montreal sold out like in an instant last year, 20,000 seats. I don't know what neutral sites they'll go to this year. I'm in Vancouver all year. Hope they obviously come and play a game here. But yeah, you're right. Is all those cities are potential host cities. It's new revenue opportunities to help them to then market the sport, pay the women, all the important things there. Um, yeah, and that's working in that business is fun, right? Trying to figure out solutions to all those problems. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd love to see a 15, 20 team PWHL 5, 10 years down the road.
yeah, it'd be pretty amazing. And luckily, it's the right time where I think if this would have happened in the '90s, I don't think they're already underpaid. We know this, but at least they're being heard. Because I think in the '90s, if you had women's sports, I don't think it would have been taken seriously as it is now. Especially the things that have happened with the U.S. women's soccer team, the U.S. gymnastics team, all that good stuff that really has shown that you know watching men play or women play is still exciting.
Yeah, and it really caught on here. I mean, it was treated like it was the NHL on so much of the broadcast, not just the game broadcast, but the highlight shows, friends at work as the draft's going on, talking about what's going on in the draft, like people fully dialed in to the final. Like it was, it was really treated well. It was really followed here in Canada last year, and I think it's just going to keep growing, right? Because the talent's going to get better and better. The guys at USA Hockey talk about the level of talent that's in the NCAA right now, and when those women are playing pro hockey, and then the talent that's coming behind them, it's so much fun coming for that sport.
Um, Terry, one thing I'm kind of really curious about is, to connect my daytime work at SY Partners with your experiences. I'd like to discuss like rebuilding an optimal culture was an important item because I can't imagine. The thing is, I don't imagine that in sports, even though I see daily these businesses, these major businesses like Pfizer and Starbucks that we've worked with in the past, kind of really put a lot of effort into and build their culture, a purposeful culture, I should say. And, the thing I'm curious about is there any difference between how that was not only in Pittsburgh, but in the US business versus, in Vancouver and Canadian business?
Well, I think every team's going to have some slight differences in culture, probably, right? Pittsburgh had a really strong culture when I got there, and you were always finding ways to refine it. How do we? And I think when I think of culture, I think of the phrase, culture is the set of expected behaviors. How do we keep adjusting the behaviors in the right way? How do we think a little bit bigger than Pittsburgh? How do we, but work ethic and some of those things, like, when I got there, that was all strongly in the culture, and everybody was at every game. It was, you were all in, you knew your role. Coming to Vancouver, part of the attraction, besides knowing that Jim and Patrick were going to have success here, because why wouldn't they? The guys are brilliant. But part of it was the team was coming back from COVID. COVID regulations ended a little bit later in Canada than in the US. And so there was an opportunity to kind of build culture from scratch in some cases. And so you try and then bring on, I think, one or two more leaders who all buy into, this is what we want that expected set of behaviors to be. The pursuit of excellence, the kind of attitude and mindset that we're looking at. This is how we're going to work. This is how we're going to treat people. I mean, we're going to have this like Disney level white glove service. And the answer is not no. It's, how do I fix your ticket problem, get you into the arena? How do I replace your beer really quickly because you just spilled your Molson over there, and it's not our fault, but we need this to be a great experience. So you hire some of the right people. You then use all of them to keep hiring. It's just like in hockey. If you're in NCAA hockey, right? You're recruiting a certain type of player, and then you get a lot of them, and then you use those players to recruit more of those players, and you create your culture that way. And it's like, it's really simple but really hard. And the team in Vancouver, like in my 2.5 years, just where they were able to take the culture and to get people to be focused on the right things, and doing those things quickly, working hard for each other. It's, the Canucks have built this really awesome, non-internally competitive culture where it's like, we got to win as a team, and it's really not you versus me. If I win today, I helped you, and if you win tomorrow, you helped me. But you got to focus on culture every day, right? Like, as you start to get away from the things that have made the culture great, or if you get disruption in the culture, it can take it sideways, just like in a dressing room. The bad culture, the bad room guy who gets traded. So it's constant maintenance. But again, it's find the right people, surround yourself with the right people with the right attitude and mindset, empower them, make them feel like they're a part of the solutions, help them to achieve their dreams. It's the same thing, whether your title is CRO or VP of ticketing or VP of partnerships or head coach or goalie coach, it is really the same stuff. And I'm just fortunate that both places where I've worked, you get people doing the right things, you build the right culture, and then the results happen. And then people in roles like mine get too much credit for things that really everyone else has done. And it's just an incredible team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great segue into, of course, we've been talking about the Penguins a lot, and I know we've been starting to kind of move into the Canucks here. But one thing I'm really curious about too is that, when you went to Pittsburgh, it was your hometown. There were superstars there when you walked into the front office. And when you walked into Vancouver, you had a team that the year before didn't make the playoffs. They were last in their division. And what's some of the challenges, but also some of the interesting things you get to do with these young players who are brand new to this, and how do you handle that with such a young person that's so new to that, things they need to do off the ice just as much as they do it on the ice?
Yeah. So the how you handle it in the business way, when it is different, when you're going from success to frustrated fan base. I was thinking about this the other day, and it either going to sound brilliant or dumb when I'm done with it. But when you walk in and things are tough, the business side just has to get better and better and better, because you got to control what you can control. All we can control is how we service the fans and the members, how we market the team, how we work with the partners, how we help the broadcast. All we can control. So you got to be just getting better and better when you're bad. But then suddenly when you're good, you got to get better and better and better at it too, because that's the expectation. So it's like you always have to be improving at that level. But yeah, but it is tougher at first, right? You have to be empathetic with people who have spent X dollars on tickets and maybe they weren't convinced of the direction of the franchise. Now, it's kind of cheating when I came in knowing who the guys were that were in charge. It was like, okay, I know you're not convinced, like, but I'm just telling you, like, I saw these guys for 7 years. Like, it's all going to be fine. We can all take a deep breath. But it's, you got to be empathetic. You've got to listen. You have to find new ways to create value, maybe for a corporate partner. If it's an off year and the TV ratings aren't what they were the previous year, and there are lots of ways to do that. And, you build a brilliant creative team, you can go and do all that. Player side, I feel like, the guys are all professional, and they know their roles, and Quinn here in tough times was taking the questions after the game, just like Sid does in Pittsburgh. And that first year was tough, right? It was Boudreau and then Talk. And then Talk came in, team started winning, but this season had started so poorly that there was still no trust. But Talk, like Mike Sullivan does in Pittsburgh, he gets up, he answers the questions, he's honest, he's a straight shooter. You can feel the intensity. I think those guys, as a group, the coaches and the players, they know the role, they know what to do. They're all community-minded guys anyway, so it's not like, hey, it's a bad team, we got to get you to go to the hospital and take care of the kids, because the good teams are doing that as well. But in the guy like Quinn Hughes he probably wasn't expecting some of the newfound stardom. You get a guy whose skating is so beautiful that it should be a crime, and suddenly he wins the Norris. He puts up, I think, 93 points. He put up some crazy number of points. He gets on the cover of EA Sports with his brothers. So this newfound success. So a guy like him can monetize some of those opportunities and do some more endorsements and do some other things. But even the endorsement things, something he did 2 weeks ago for a Canucks partner was a Q&A at a 700 person KPMG town hall meeting. Well, that's building more fans, right? Getting out there with a partner. I know sometimes that not in the sports business world, it's like, oh, the sponsors, they ruined this, or they did okay, that sponsor put really well-spoken, awesome guy in front of 700 people who all instantly became bigger Canucks fans.
Yeah.
And here in Vancouver, in Pittsburgh, you're all Penguins fans. In Detroit, probably all Wings fans, maybe some Leafs fans that snuck across.
Yeah.
But in Vancouver, hockey's so big here. You have Oilers fans and Avs fans. You have a McKinnon fan, a Crosby fan. And so part of that 700 crowd was hardcore Canucks fans. Somebody else in there's probably a Flames loyalist. And if nothing else, they're like, I still love the Flames, but Quinn Hughes is a stand-up guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
which
this.
Which is interesting, because it's actually something I haven't written down, but I'm curious about it, as well as the fact that, of course, a guy gets to see, and as a player, even as a coach, you think about, well, is he good for the team? Is he working hard on the ice? Is he doing great things for the team? But what does a guy that has a C on his chest do for the business of that organization?
Well, between what he does and the way that like Kelsey Philpott, Hannah Wilkinson, John Delaney, Miles, the marketing team, what they're able to do with him and what he does, people fell in love with the guy. Like real, true, like butterflies fell in love with the guy. And then that just gives you this attachment point, right? That you latch on to with our marketing, with our sales efforts. It helps in so many different ways. Having a guy like him, and now you get this consistent face doing the interviews after games, and as people see consistency, that helps them to build a stronger connection with the team as well. He's just and when he does these things, whether it's a community thing, whether it's a speaking event, yeah, I mean, I think just he as captain, and he's got more cred, right, with the C. Like, it's different than, like, this is Quinn Hughes. He really skates well, and he's the bomb American defenseman. But it's different when you have the C. Like, you're walking in, you're in charge, there's an expectation, and then he just over delivers on it. And I think, a lot of the media here would probably talk about how that dressing room has really evolved and grown. And yep, some of it's Taka and Adam Foote and Gonchi, you got these warriors, but some of it's Quinn. Some of it's Quinn being in that role, how it allows guys around him to lead in different ways, to speak at different times. But yeah, like, it's, they name him as captain because they want to win the cup, and it's the right thing to do for the hockey team. But from a business perspective, it just gives you more tools for the toolbox. Right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
That's perfect, because I'm curious. The one thing I want to talk to you about is two things. What do you think about the team this year? I know every year everybody's going to say we want to win the cup. I know that's another thing. What do you think about the team this year? Also, when is Vancouver bringing back the red, yellow, and black full time?
Can't answer that question. You'll notice that black skate jersey on the ice a lot this year, just like you did last year. The fans
Good.
love it.
I love it.
And the players love it. And that's one of those things, like, when you're in the hockey business, I was fortunate that we did a massive launch of that in January, February of 23. Being a part of that was really cool. But when you do that, that involves player input. Coaches and players and the GM and Jim and ownership, everybody weighs in. Same thing in Pittsburgh. Like, when they were coming out with third jerseys, and when we were picking playoff jerseys one year, it's like, Sid, what do the guys think? Like, it's not a marketing only decision. It's not a, hey, need to sell more jerseys, let's do this. I don't know if or when it will be full time. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say if I favor or don't favor that. Jersey's awesome. That's what my boy Kirk McLean won.
Yeah.
But so with the first question, okay, and then how about the team this year? The challenges, right? No one took the Canucks. Maybe they didn't take them seriously. No one played the Canucks as hard at the beginning of the season last year as they did at the end. Once the Canucks are serious, everyone's up for the game. I was able to, as you would say, blessed to watch a lot of Penguins games over the years, and it was always everybody's biggest game. It's tough to be a Penguin. The teams are going to play the Canucks hard this year. What I do think that Jim and Patrick and the team have done is, I think, like DeBrusk and Danton Heinen, who can play first or fourth line, who can kill, who eats pucks and then scores a shorty. They've really, the Daniel Sprong signing later in the summer at a great value deal, I think they've done a really nice job up front, putting the right pieces in place. It feels like there are a couple guys who are starting in Abbotsford that may play a role as the season goes on. He talked about growing up at the right time in Pittsburgh for Mario's years. But I remember the whole line of guys from the Muskegon Lumberjacks. I remember, guys that would come up from the IHL and make a difference. I remember the 2016 Penguins team. I think it was Matt Murray, Brian Rust, Scott Wilson. There was a handful of them that came from the A and made a difference. It was Gensel the next year. One of these guys that's going to start in the A may play a massive role toward the end, so that they got that going for them. Bummer that Big Z is not on the blue line. But I think it's a really good team. People are going to play them harder, and thank God for Canucks fans that you've got the coaching staff that you have, who are they ready for it? I don't know. Is anyone ever ready for it? But whatever comes their way, those guys will adjust, and they will adjust quickly. And I think it's going to be a really fun season for Canucks fans.
Yeah. No,
Team's the
that's
real deal.
yeah.
Team's the
No,
real deal, and Miller and Besser and Quinn and sorry that you lost Philip Ronick.
no, I keep
What
an
a
eye on
player!
Vancouver. I keep an eye on Vancouver, mostly because my love for Pavel Bure, but also I have a vendor that I use a print vendor out there, Hemlock, that's in Vancouver. And I've been to games and I get to see that, and then getting to see Hronik, who was so good for the Red Wings at the wrong time
Yeah,
at, for the team, and seeing how he's really flourished as a Canuck is really great to see. Of course, Quinn Hughes, any of the Hughes, because they're Michigan. They're those kids were born everywhere because their dad worked all over the place. But they kind of, I know they root themselves in Michigan, so and most of them played for Michigan. So of course Quinn Hughes, and then the DeBrus thing I think is so huge. I think Daniel Sprong has some of the weirdest analytics. If there's a hockey listener that's an analytic fan, look up Daniel Sprong's analytics. Offensively, he is just as strong as like the top 25 guys in the league that you knew would be up there, like McDavid and and Pasternak and guys like that, and Daniel Sprong's right in there. So I'm a little bummed that he's not going to be wearing red anymore, but I know that he's a huge add-on for Vancouver, and I know that he played in Seattle. I know he likes playing in that kind of Northwest area. So you guys have a really good one there in him.
yeah. The World Tour of the Canucks is going to be a lot of fun this year, for
Yeah.
sure.
Terry, before we kind of start to wind down here, I want to talk to you about your relationship with USA Hockey. I know you've done things there. What's that role like? And I know it's kind of like, well, I have this job and then I do this, because your list is pretty long as the board of directors of so many organizations. What's your role at USA Hockey?
I don't know, to cheer on the guys that are really good at their jobs. It's interesting. So USA Hockey, obviously, huge passion point for me. I joined their marketing council in 2011 when I wasn't coaching at that point. Wanted to give back to the game, keep the game growing. USA Hockey's got a paid staff. Pat Kelleher leads that, one of my best buds in the world. Jackson, Michigan's Tony Driscoll. Driscoll runs the commercial and communication side of USA Hockey. So when you're on a board, council, committee kind of role, it's like a guidance and assistance kind of role. The pay staff, they do the job. I was just down there for a couple of days with those guys last week, and when I come away with a list of notes, it's the how can I help, right? There's hey, here's some areas where Tony can use some help. Can I lobby on his behalf? Here's some areas. Here's some things that they're doing really well. How do I make sure everyone knows they're doing it well? They need some help. They can use some help probably in the corporate partnership area. Every dollar they make at USA Hockey goes back into the game, whether it's ADM, which I am a huge believer in the American development model. Making Chipotle Nationals a cooler experience for kids, getting people to try hockey, getting people to learn to play. So all the money's going to my favorite cause of all. So how do you help in some of those things? But last week it was, I don't know, like 6 or 8 hours into Thursday last week. It started to hit me, and then I told some guys about it after I left. But like the clarity of purpose, the common purpose among the staff there, between hockey ops, the sponsorship team, the social media team, going back to strategy and vision, they all get what they're there for, and they're all aligned on it. And if it's an international event, they're there to win. If it's an international team, they're there to develop that team so the team can win. And if it's not that, then it's just to make hockey better. Whether it's nationals or more learn to play or better learn to play. We talked a lot about content creation. They don't have the resources of an NHL team, right? So how do they create more and more content? But they've got a gold mine potentially with the Four Nations tournament this year. And you look at some of the guys that are going to wear U.S. sweaters. It's like, this is like, it's insane where the sport has come. And but I've always cheered for, whether it was the Jim Craigs of the world or the Mike Modano's, Billy Guerins, and now the guys you get guys like Larkin and Kane and all the Hugheses and the Kachuk brothers. And I mean, which of the 5 legit goalies are you even going to pick?
Yeah.
Like you got Demko, Ottinger, Hellebuck. Like it's cheating. It's not fair. But common purpose there. So so my role. So I chair the marketing committee right now, which is really, I don't give them enough support, but give Tony and that team as much support as I can. Lots of notes. There's a council I'm on, or a committee I'm on, that includes people from another number of areas around. Whether it's Allison, who's at the NHL, Robert Esch on my committee, former goaltender, clearly super high level, a lot of national teams, Coyotes, plus that Eastern Pennsylvania team that I heard about. They have a mascot, I guess. And everybody's, how can we bring things to the table? So Eschi last year hosted the Women's Worlds in Utica. He owns the Comets, and he has built this like really well-oiled machine for pro and youth hockey in upstate New York. And he put on like the most incredible show ever for the Women's Worlds. It's a USA Hockey event. It grows the sport. It gives the women the kind of showcase they need. Esh is one of those guys that if you talk to him, you wouldn't realize that he was a pro hockey player. You would have thought that he went to school for sports marketing and worked in NASCAR and for the Coyotes and Flyers rather than playing for them. Just so many cool things going on there. It's an honor to be able to be a part of it. Great humans just doing my favorite work of all times.
That's
growing the
pretty
game.
awesome.
It's where it is.
That's pretty awesome. Terry, this has been a great trip through your career, giving us your insights and thinking. What's it look like down the road for the future of Terry Kalna?
I don't know. No clue. I think the short-term future is really simple. I'm almost on the ice every single day at the North Shore Winter Club right now, which is kind of a blast. I don't know. I've been reading a book a week. I just finished up Team of Teams, which was a Mike Sullivan recommendation during COVID. It's unbelievable. Like, you want a book with really compelling content that teaches you about how to change strategy on the fly and change everything and change culture and communication. So doing a lot of reading short term on the ice. Winter clubs kind of fun. Bedard and Celebrini are there all summer, so it's cool to go get on the ice over there and skate. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what all's next in the hockey world. Had I not taken some time off here, I wouldn't have been able to go visit Tony and the USA Hockey guys the way I did last week. So it's nice to be able to dig in a bit more there. They're focused on the World Junior coming to Minnesota in about 15 months here. The U18s in Dallas, which is a really big deal for Dallas, for USA Hockey, for the NHL to have a really good, strong foundation to a U18 World Tournament in North America here. So
to bring something to the South. Something to the South is good. So, no, Terry, this has been great. I know my listeners and myself have learned a lot listening to what the front office has done for you. So thanks so much for your time.
No, I appreciate it. It's fun to talk about, leadership in hockey. It's the easiest stuff to talk about. Anyone, you talked before about kids who wanted to get in sports. I once said to a Penguins player that working here feels like what I thought playing here would feel like. So I can't even imagine what those guys do and feel like. But it's an awesome career. It's fun to work on the sales, the marketing, the relationships on the business side, to learn strategy, but learn strategy with something that you care so deeply for, so emotionally for. And then you get to work alongside and with, guys that were your heroes when you were a kid, and just be a part of the pursuit of winning. But, and losing sucks. But you know what? When you lose, when the season's over and you're surrounded with by your colleagues that have become your family over the past year or 7 years, it's still a bonding and uniting experience, and it's so fun to be in it every day.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Terry. We will talk soon.
Steve, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
How about that chat with